myself out.
I am afraid of...
I'm terrified and paralyzed by...
I am deathly afraid of...
Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast with your host, me, Ryan Perio. Hello and welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perio. This week, my guest is comedian Jacob Marshall. Jacob is a young up-and-coming comedian. He's just barely started here about 6 months into the Dallas comedy scene. He's more out of Fort Worth area as he is a TCU student as well. We recorded this while I was waiting to go up at an open mic at the Low Key Tavern. They hadn't set up yet, and there's usually a little bit of downtime before we start. And so I took advantage of that to record an interview with Jacob since he was running that open mic. It's a little shorter than I would like due to the fact that someone, me, forgot to replace the batteries on the recorder before we started. And at about 15 minutes, of course, the recorder died. And so I had some spares, but they were not fully charged. And so at about 15 minutes again, it started to look like it was going to peter out on us again. So I kind of cut the interview a little bit short. It's a real fun interview, though. We talk about comedy, college life, and then we get into his fear of small talk. So now let's get into that small interview with Jacob Marshall. All right, we're here at the Low Key Tavern here in Fort Worth, and I am interviewing local comedian / TCU student Jacob Marshall.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. This is already awful for me.
You got a very interesting fear, and this is kind of basically feeding right into it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So before we get into that, let's talk about how long have you been doing stand-up? About
Sunday was actually 5 months.
Congrats. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So you're relatively new in. What made you come out and actually give it a shot?
I've always kind of been interested in making people laugh. I've always loved that. And then interested in how movies, TV shows, and stand-up comedians could make people laugh, and how that worked. And then I got really into podcasts over the last couple years, comedians podcasts specifically, and just kind of learning through them talking about it. I was I think I can do this. And then finally I had roommates last year that were you're funny, Jacob, you need to go out and try it. And they kind of forced me to go out one night, and I did decent for your first time and got hooked. It's kind of addicting.
It is very addicting.
Yeah.
So where was your first time?
Mad Hatter, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So
our Fort Worth partner bar here down on the other side of, I guess, this side of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what has been the highlight since you're 5 months in? What's been the highlight for you as far as comedy? What is your if you were to retire today, what would you say is your highest moment?
I don't know. I've had 2 Red Room shows, and they both went really well for me. Those were fun. This weekend, actually, I got to hang out with Adam Ray while he was in town, and just since I am a comic, I guess he hung out with me and 3 other young comedians in the area, and that was awesome. Just getting to sit there and talk comedy with them. And but yeah, it'd probably be that or one of my 2 Red Room shows. Okay. Yeah.
Well, congrats on the Red Room shows, and
thanks.
Hanging out with a comedian's always really cool because it's a tenuous balance for me. I've always been, as a social person that's not social, I don't know where the line begins and ends as far as am I crossing a line? Is this guy really interested in me, or am I just talking to him to the point that he's trying to leave and I'm not seeing the sign of him wanting to leave?
Yeah, that's what was actually funny is Adam told me when we were hanging out Saturday night, he was I thought you worked here all weekend, because I was just there, and he was you were out of the way. He's anytime I came and talked to you, and if I needed anything, you took care of it. He's I just thought you worked here. He's I didn't know what your job was, but he's you just didn't butt into conversations. You were just kind of around. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's true though. It's kind of like hard to find that balance of like, when can I talk? When are you interested in like talking? And when am I bothering you? Like,
Yeah. That's kind of a sign of, I guess, that could be considered on the spectrum somewhere, is like is missing social cues.
yeah.
And I do that a lot. That's one of my big bugaboos as far as socializing. That's why you'll see me usually kept to myself, is because I am very poor at socializing.
Yeah.
So you're a student at TCU.
Yes.
You're a student manager, I guess.
Yes,
And
I
you-
am.
And I believe it's for the basketball team?
Yeah, I work for the men's basketball team. So like, the last few years I was head manager. And then since I'm a fifth-year college student, victory lapping it, my parents are super proud. I stepped down from head manager this year because managing is really a 4-year job. You're really not supposed to do it for a fifth year. So I'm just kind of around occasionally helping out at this point.
Okay.
And I just kind of took a step back, but it's a fun gig.
So you're like Van Wilder, just not as
Kind of.
good looking.
Yeah, well, definitely that. Yeah, not that. No, I mean, yeah, I guess. I told him going into the year, I was like, hire as if I'm not going to be around. So whenever I'm around, it's a bonus. I was like, you don't have to pay me. I don't need anything. Like, I just, at the end of the year, I want the letter of recommendation. That's all that matters to me.
So what does a student manager do? Like, what are your duties?
That's a long list. Technically speaking, we assist in practices and with film, and then there's a few things outside of practice that we're allowed to do. What we actually do is a lot more than that. NCAA may not be too happy with me saying, so
Well, you don't have to go into specifics if it's
yeah,
going
but
to.
it's a lot of basically you're the team bitch.
Okay.
You're players need something, you help get it done. Coach doesn't want to hear about it, you just do it.
Okay.
You get to travel with the team, that's fun. Getting to go across the country. I got to go to Hawaii with the team for a tournament. I've been to LA a couple times. I got to go to New York City. And then all the Big 12 schools, so Austin, Norman, like Lawrence, Kansas, all those places. So it's cool.
So when you say you look at film, was it coaching film? So you like are you like very proficient in, like, basketball, like as far as plays go, like you can watch a basketball game and kind of see?
Yeah, I mean, I have that. What we would do, so we would take the feed directly from ESPN, and then there's this software that you put the video into, and then you can cut everything into clips. So you can take a 2-hour game and make it 45 minutes worth of film, because you just cut out all the in-between, the fat, and the commercials, the inbounds after a made basket. You don't need that. So that's what we would do, is kind of clip it, and you'd label everything. So you'd be like offense, defense. So if coach wants to go in and look at only their offensive plays, he can go in through that system and just click on offense and get all that defense, inbounds plays, when they're pressing, when they're in zone, all that stuff. We basically go through and do the grunt work of getting it all organized and cut up.
That's fascinating. So are you planning to use any of this, I guess, in your next step after college?
Originally, yes. Before I found comedy, my plan was to get into coaching. But I kind of found over the last couple years specifically that really basketball wasn't making me happy anymore.
Okay.
It's just draining throughout the season. Like, I'd have friends that would be like, you in November is a much different person than you in February. Like, you in February, you're just a zombie walking around, like 60-hour weeks, traveling all the time, and then school on top of that. Like, it's a lot to keep up with. And so I just kind of decided, once I started comedy, that was kind of the nail in the coffin of this isn't what I want to do anymore.
Okay. So what else besides comedy do you find passion in? Like, at this point, are you still searching for something that?
Yeah, I think I am. I think comedy is definitely the biggest thing in my life right now. I think my plan when I graduate is probably just to get a sales job or something like that, something that pays the bills, has benefits, but can still, at the end of the day, like 9 to 5, I can get out, hit mics, and still and not be drained. Like a serving job, I feel like I'd just be exhausted at the end of the day from running around.
Yes.
But get me a desk job, something like that. even since I do have athletics department experience and I have connections at UT, like that's a possibility of me working at athletics department at UT. Like, but it's all kind of up in the air right now. Still trying to figure it all out.
Awesome. Maybe they could. I don't know if maybe basketball could provide you some kind of where you do kind of the video work where you don't have to be there over to you do a set time, compile all the video.
Yeah, so that's actually a graduate assistant job. It's called video coordinator. And to do that, you have to be in grad school. Okay. And I am done with school after this year. I am. It's not for me.
Okay. I get that. Like a lot of times you get to a point in school or, in life where you're like, this isn't for me. And it's part of life's journey. Like you'll do something for years and then you'll realize, oh, this is what's been draining me the whole time. And that's, comedy is a joy, but it is very hard to sustain.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was curious as to what your other avenues as far as what you may be passionate about that you can maybe go with in tandem with comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I like passion-wise, I like music. I'm not super talented musically, but I like a lot of different forms of entertainment in general. And I also like it's part of comedy, but I do enjoy writing. So I don't know. There's different avenues I could take in tandem with comedy. I feel like that I would be happy with.
What about, I don't know how many basketball podcasts or anything like that, like maybe combining your comedic skills with basketball?
Yeah, I was actually talking to another comic just last night about we were thinking about starting a sports podcast. I don't know. It's hard because I feel like now there's just so many podcasts about everything.
True, but I mean at the same time, like if with your keen insight into basketball and the things like that, like basically making it a basketball centric podcast and maybe using your expertise to break down. I mean, you can maybe that's the key is to just do something and with your connections to TCU and other colleges, you have inside scoops and to actually, interview guests or bring guests on to talk.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Like, that would be fun. Like,
so, but that's not what we're here. We're not here to give you fear, to give you, well, not fear, but to give you ideas for career podcasts. We're a podcast based on fears, and yours was very interesting when you said that. Like, go ahead and tell everybody what your fear is.
My fear is small talk. I hate it. It's so uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, that's all you do.
Yeah, it is, and it's the worst. I'm just miserable all the time.
Because you're, I guess, as a student assistant, like you got to have small talk with everybody in the locker room and in the coach's room.
Oh, and the coaches are so difficult. We have a coach, one of our coaches. I'm not gonna say who. But he's like literally the type of guy that you'll be like, hey, good morning, coach, blah, blah, blah. And he'll just walk by and be like, huh. He'll just grunt. Like, you're like, cool.
But maybe he's afraid of small talk too. And that's his avoidance.
That's my avenue to get in and really get close with him, I think.
Well, that's awesome. So do you think this fear started with? Like, where do you think that this all went wrong for you as far as small talk went?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it the last week because I like when you first asked me, I was like, oh, I don't know, but I think I can kind of trace it back probably to like middle school.
Okay.
Like when all insecurities are born.
Yeah.
Like I think just the awkwardness of being 12, 13, 14, whatever, partnered with, I don't know, like you kind of just see like those moments where you're starting to become an adult and you talk to adults and you can see in their face, oh, this isn't going well. And then on top of that, during that same time, my parents' divorce was going on.
Okay.
And it was not a good one. And I don't know, my parents, both of them, more my mom, but both of them kind of were preaching, like, put everything in writing. Like, words can, like, be very dangerous. Words can really screw you over. Like, and I was like, oh, crap. Like, there's a lot of pressure on everything now. Like it's just something like as a kid you don't think about. You're just like, hey, if I want to talk to somebody, I'm going to talk to them.
Yeah.
And then you start growing older and you start seeing there's consequences for what you say. And, yeah, it makes it a lot harder.
Absolutely. And It's fascinating that I feel like that maybe your parents did it more than anything because
Yeah, probably.
because you're so focused on words. Like the way you just said that, like words matter. Like you put such a basis on words that overthought just has crept into your just daily conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I think it's that, and then the other thing is like being taught growing up, like how important first impressions are, and like it's everything, and you have like so little time, and it's so hard to like, it's so easy really to just like totally fuck that up. Oh,
Yeah.
am I allowed to curse
Yeah.
on this? Okay. Yeah, it's,
Everybody asked that.
Okay, yeah.
I should preface every interview request with yes, you're allowed to cuss.
But yes, first impressions. Yeah, just like how important it is, and like you don't know that person. It's a first impression, obviously. So, and you don't have that much time to set it, and it's so easy for it to go wrong, and that can have lasting consequences. I feel like so. Yeah, it freaks me out. Small talk is nerve wracking.
Yeah, it is, and as a comic, I can tell you that first impressions are very they do matter, and it's hard to wipe out a first impression, which is why I always preach caution to a lot of comics and stuff that are maybe pushing for something that may have been just a little bit more than what they're ready for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's just it's one of those things where yes, it's an opportunity, but at the same time, would you rather take that opportunity now and risk it, or take a little bit more time to get even better and then go in
Ready.
yes?
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
So how are you on dates?
It's a good question. I don't have that much dating experience, honestly, because my senior year of high school, I started dating this girl, and it was like a girl from class that we were in clubs together, and like we were already like really close friends for like a year before we started dating. So like I didn't have to go through that like startup process with her. It felt like she kind of just knew me from class. We had mutual friends in class, and then in the club as well, we had mutual friends, and then that just kind of like happened accidentally almost. And then I dated her for 4 years. So I've only been single for like a year now, and I've probably only gone on like 2 or 3 real dates. Like in those scenarios, I'm kind of fine, because before I go on like an in-person date, I kind of check some boxes of like, okay, we're going to talk over text for a while. We'll FaceTime, talk on the phone for a while. And I feel like that kind of alleviates the pressure of it a little bit. And then also, I think it helps. I don't put as much pressure on dates, because I don't know if I'm taking dating very seriously at the moment.
Okay. But I mean, I get that too. Like, you have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Sans dating. And maybe that's just something you can, I guess, put aside for now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been doing.
Okay.
But yeah.
Because I'm curious on date conversations, how that do you like,
I mean, I try to get to know them really. Like, so I ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
And then, I don't know. I'm really bad about like, I know that I can like steamroll a conversation and just make it all about me. So I like, am really focused on like, okay, like we're going to talk about you as much as possible. If you ask a question, I'll answer, but we're going to throw it right back to you as much as like,
okay.
Yeah. Keep it conversational. I don't want it to feel like an interview, but yeah.
That's also one of the fears of small talk, is that you're just constantly talking.
Yeah. And I know I do that like really badly. So, I don't even know where to go from here on that.
So how do you handle it? Like, how do you, I guess, work past it?
I try to blow past it as quick as possible.
Okay.
As fast as I can get into an actual meaningful conversation, then I'm good. Like because that's another part. Like, I feel like small talk is just so inefficient. Like, it's kind of a waste of time. You don't really get to know the person. Like, they don't really get to know anything about you. You're kind of just it's like a warm up to the conversation. that I feel like I need to warm up for. Like, I don't know. But yeah, blowing past it as quick as possible would be my strategy, or learning as much about them secondhand beforehand so I can know, like, what do you like, and just jump into that.
So stalk people. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hey, I'm a sports guy. I do film, you know?
All right.
Yeah, that did sound weird. Whoops.
That happens. But I mean, there is a lot of people that have that fear. Like, that's why everybody dreads a first date or an interview, or it's not that they don't know. It's the whole small talk, and it feels like this is, like you said, I wouldn't say inefficient, inauthentic is the word I would use, because it doesn't feel like it's anything about you. It feels like something you have to do to get to the next stage.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's true. Yeah, inauthentic is a good way of looking at it, for sure. Yeah, because, you're 100% right. I don't even know. I don't know what else to say about that, but yeah, you are correct.
So what would you, so your recommendation to anybody that also has this fear is to kind of move past it as quick as possible, to gauge, to try and make as best a gauge as possible, to say, okay, it's time to drop real conversation? Or do you just start with real conversation? Like, for me, what I've started to do, like, because I watched Shang-Chi, like, I just come in with humor from the get-go. Like, it's just...
Yeah, I feel like I do that too. I will try to make as many jokes as I can up front. And, when I'm asking about them, it's like, if there's anything I can do with their response to make it funny, I'll do that. But yeah, I think really the best advice would from me for this, and I have not figured this out 100% yet, would be, get past it quickly. Don't settle on it for too long. Settling is probably not the right word for that. But don't stay in the small talk period for very long. And I think for me, I think getting older and growing up even more is going to help with this. At least I'm hoping so. And just getting more experience with small talk. I'm a young guy, so fingers crossed I still have time to figure this out.
Doing stand-up will help. Like, I feel that above and beyond, like, just stand-up is maybe more socially okay, because you're broaching topics and you're kind of learning, okay, this gets a laugh, so you can kind of pick and choose your spots to kind of elicit the reaction you want to get. So you kind of become a better, I guess, a conversationalist, if you will.
Yeah, I think it has helped even in this short time for me. But the one thing about stand-up for me is, like, stand-up, like, I feel like everything has to be completely authentic for me when I'm doing stand-up. And that kind of goes back to small talk's very inauthentic. So that's why I feel like stand-up was easier for me to pick up than small talk's been.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm way better in front of 300 than I am 3. And that's just in a conversation. I get so, like, quiet and everything else. So I totally get where you're coming from. I guess it's totally relatable. And so I thank you for doing this. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh yeah, follow me at Jacob Marshall Comedy on Instagram and the TikTok. My TikTok is terrible. So actually you could skip over that one. Just go to Instagram. That's where everything is. It's also not great, but I'm working on it, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're 5 months in, and you're gonna. It's just a lot of learning about yourself. Like, you've got a lot of introspection as you write jokes and do material and face challenges of, people either something you want to work does not working, or something you didn't intend to working too well and not knowing where or why that's working. Like, sometimes you throw stuff against the wall and you're like, I don't understand why
that's stuck.
Yeah,
definitely. But anything I'm so bad at this. I'm trying to get better at this.
You're getting better.
Is this the end?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me, Ryan. This was awesome.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Hopefully this wasn't a waste of your time.
No.
I feel terribly about it.
Don't feel terrible. My batteries died in the middle of this, so don't.
Oh, yeah. We were almost to completion. That was a bad joke. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Yeah, we need to just...
All right. So that was Jacob. Arg. I'm so frustrated that I kept having issues with the battery and I didn't take the charging cable that I keep at home to do this while I record at home. It just slipped my mind, and with all the other things I was trying to get ready, as well as doing open mics and other things around, I just wasn't as prepared as I would like. I felt like the audio was really great. I thought the Low Key Tavern was a really cool place to do a podcast. It's a really nice bar if you're in the Fort Worth area by on the south side. It's just off of Jennings and Pennsylvania, I believe. And so check out Low Key Tavern. It's an amazing establishment. We do an open mic there on Tuesdays if you're a comedy fan, so come check us out. It's run by Andrew Barton, who hopefully will be a future guest on the podcast. It's a really interesting fear, Smalltalk. It's something I never really classified as a fear, even though I struggle to do it so much. Every girl I dated will tell you that our first date was absolutely abysmal because I don't know how to talk, and so I would just smile and nod. And I probably, have had numerous occasions where people thought I may not be interested in them when I was, because I don't know how to talk because I'm a dum-dum. Check out Jacob Marshall. He is doing, some shows around town. If you're in Fort Worth, he sometimes is at Fort Worth Hyenas. He does a lot of open mics around the Fort Worth scene on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays as well. He's a really affable guy. He's still trying to find his way through the comedy scene. So you're getting in on the ground floor of a really good comic. So make sure you check him out at Jacob Marshall Comedy on Instagram. As for me, did another weekend at Backdoor, just hanging out in town while I get stuff scheduled away. I've got most of January scheduled now. So now I have the 2nd through the 6th of January, I'll be in Wichita, Kansas. Then 12th through the 15th, I will be at the Looney Bin in Oklahoma City. I also will be in Looney Bin in Wichita, by the way. They're both Looney Bins. So check me out if you're in one of those two areas. And then the week after that, I will be at Hyenas in Fort Worth, featuring for the always fun Rob Little. Hoping to maybe record in those sets and turn them into a comedy album. So stay tuned for that. That's on the horizon, I hope. Also, hoping to get to work in Hyenas, Dallas to finish out my January. And then after that, in March, I will be in Oak Cliff. Or not Oak Cliff, but the Comedy Arena, March 3 through 5 with Mallory and a feature that's yet to be named on that show. So come check out the Comedy Arena if you didn't last time. It was a great show with me, Steve Gamble, and Mallory. But this time we'll try to find a different feature. So that's my shows coming up. I have more hopefully coming. I've still haven't heard back from Laughs in Tucson's. I've emailed a couple other comedy clubs, so hopefully they will get back to me, as well as the Plano House of Comedy, TK's, and DCC as well. So check out upcoming shows from me. I'm excited. I'm also doing a show in Midland, Texas with James Johan, and so that will be a great time as well. I look forward to that. That'll be on December 3rd, so I will be probably doing some podcast work while I'm out there in Midland. So check that out as well. I appreciate you guys for listening. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. It's been abnormally chilly. It's kind of weird to all of a sudden be thrust into weather that's in the 30s and 40s, but here we are. I've got my favorite hoodie out, and we're just, going about life. Hopefully you guys stay warm too. Thanks again for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. Leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts to help the exposure of the show. I appreciate all of you guys for listening and, the reviews that have been left. If you have any feedback, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. I will be happy to listen to those. But that's it for this week. Stay tuned. We'll have another guest next week. And thanks for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. And now some thank yous for the folks that make this show possible. Thanks to Barry Whitewater for my art and graphics. You can follow him on Instagram at bwhiteh2o. Get it? H2O like water. You can also follow him on Facebook, Music. A huge thank you to Gunnar Olsen for the wonderful music provided for this podcast. You can follow him on Instagram at gunbuns, that's Gunbuns, as well as his website, gunnarolsen.net. Check out some of the samples that he has recorded. They're amazing. He's an amazing percussionist. If you want to follow the show, we've got a Facebook group, Some of All Fears. Instagram, Twitter, you can find us at Some Fear Fans. If you have some feedback for the show, email me at somefearfans, SOMEFEARFANS @gmail.com. I'll be happy to take those into consideration. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, email me at somefearfans @gmail.com. We can try to iron out some details and get that settled in. Give us some feedback if on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. It makes the show bigger, and it's not going anywhere. I'm going to record as many shows as I possibly can. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Ryan Perio. It's RyanPerio on all social media platforms. You can follow me there, and you can check me out at ryanperio.com, my website. I'll try to list upcoming shows there as well. It's been kind of spotty because as soon as I set it up, that's when the pandemic happened. And everything's kind of just in a holding pattern. Thanks again for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. Next week, we'll have another guest with another fear. Thanks for listening.